Hello, this is the second video in my hopefully ongoing series of good gateway game videos. Today's gateway game is Ubongo, the puzzle, jigsaw, race against time, gem collection game. I'm trying to create a continuity between each game. So previously we looked at Galaxy Trucker, and this game shares that similar idea with you have a player board and you'll have a puzzle to solve. In Galaxy Trucker it was solving the problem with a spaceship. In this it's a more pure and slightly abstracted puzzle idea. In Ubongo you are given 9 boards which along the side have a series of symbols, antelope, hands, shields, and these relate to, on the easy setting, 3 different tile shapes, your common Tetris T's, L's, squares, things along those lines. When a die is rolled for all the players at the same time, and that correlates to the symbols they'll use. Everyone has a net on their board that these 3 or more, if you're playing on more advanced settings, pieces must be slotted into. They can be flipped, rotated. The only rule is that they must completely fill the net and obviously not go outside it. You have a certain amount of time to do this, and everyone will be doing this at the same time. When the timer finishes, you have to have finished your puzzle. If you have finished, you will gain 2 gems from a large track of gems that sits in the middle of the table. You move your piece, the number of times you can move it depends on if you were first, second, third or fourth finished, and then you will take the 2 gems that correlate along that row. So everyone chooses their gems, you clear your board, you take that board, well you don't throw it, but you put it out of the way, and you draw the next one. Roll the dice, solve the puzzle, rinse, repeat 9 times. The person at the end of the game who has the most gems of a single colour wins the game. I'm going to go through my pyramid, my gateway pyramid, which is now sort of drawn, which no expense was spared. Shows the 3 things that I consider a good foundation for a gateway game: playtime, the ability to mix new players and veterans, and the game's theme. And then just above that, I think slightly more important, is the level of complexity in the game and the game's accessibility. And then the most important, the tip of the pyramid, is how fun the game is. So we're going to start at the bottom and build up. So first of all, playtime. I think this is really important because there's nothing worse than you see new players slogging it out in a 3-hour marathon game. And while I love 3-hour games, I think the playtime has to be appropriate to what you're playing. This is the problem with Monopoly. If Monopoly was a half-hour game, it would be great. It's not a half-hour game, it's a 6-hour game. It's painful. So Ubongo's playtime. It has a fixed number of rounds. You're only going to be playing 9. You can say this at the start. People can say, oh, I've got to go in a bit, or they've just arrived, and perhaps you want to get something going that's got a bit of meat to it, but you're not going to be sitting there forever and ever. 9 rounds, you know almost exactly how long it's going to take. With a timer used for each puzzle, this means that the puzzles are fixed. You won't be sitting there tapping your foot, come on, finish your puzzle. The timer's set it. The only variable in the amount of time that it takes to play the game comes in the gem selection. Everyone finishes their puzzles and then they ponder over which gems to take. Even the most analysis paralysis person can only take so long with the limited amount of choices that they have. And at the end of the day, it's a short little jigsaw game. It's not the chess world championship. So combined with the 9 boards, the decision time, the moving around of the pieces, this game can be finished anywhere between half an hour and 45 minutes, and it will almost never be less, and it will almost never be more, which is, I think, around a perfect length game to introduce somebody to a game that you can say, if they've played Monopoly or Risk, it's not going to be as long as that. And even Cluedo has another common game, has a bit of a give and take on how long it can be. This is a very consistent game, and I think that's important. The next thing along on the pyramid is the ability for new players to play with veteran players. Very rarely do I find you're introducing a whole new group to a game. Instead, you might have a regular group with perhaps somebody who's turned up new, or something along those lines. I think it's important to have games that can work for both people, because you don't want to feel that the veterans have to sit out or not play their best. You don't want to have to feel that the newbies are going to be completely drowned through their lack of understanding. Because Ubongo is a puzzle game, skills from other board games such as tactical understanding and positioning of units, resource management, worker placement, hand management, deck management, these skills are not applicable to Ubongo. So the fact that somebody has played 12 games of Twilight Imperium, 100 games of Dominion, 50 games of Lords of Waterdeep, just because they have these skills isn't going to help them in Ubongo. Ubongo is all about spatial awareness and ability to do that under pressure of time. So this doesn't give veterans an insurmountable, doesn't give them a large benefit to somebody who's playing the game for the first time. In terms of somebody who's very good at puzzles, which is entirely possible, there are 2 difficulty settings in the game. So if somebody really has a good head for shapes and can do this quickly under time, they can play on the harder difficulty setting, which involves 4 shapes rather than 3. This means that everyone is doing their own thing. It's differentiated, but it doesn't feel like somebody's getting an unnecessary bonus or somebody is handicapped needlessly. If anything, somebody who enjoys puzzles wants a challenge, so the 4 shape aspect suits them. In addition, everyone who finishes their puzzle, doesn't matter if you finish it and most of the sun time is left, or if you finished it and you're down to the last grain of salt, everyone gets 2 gems. But there is the benefit in the faster you finish, the more positional choices you have with your token for which gems you will take. So it rewards, but it doesn't punish, which I think is always a good idea in game design. The final aspect of the base level of the pyramid is the theme. There is no fluff theme to Ubongo here at all. The African aspect is just a slap on. Instead, it's a puzzle against time, simply. Some people love puzzles and jigsaw, so that's going to be completely unobtrusive. I don't think that theme is anything that would put people off or draw people in, particularly with this game. As really, I think, a puzzle more as a mechanic than a fluffy theme. The next level of the pyramid, the complexity and accessibility. From a complexity point of view, this game is ideal to introduce new people. It has super simple main rules. Almost everyone can understand the idea of you've got to fit all your puzzle pieces inside the net. Easy peasy. It also introduces the winning aspect is the only time that might require a tiny bit of explanation, and that's because it's a most of one kind idea. Often in games it's just having the most. This rewards you in having the most blue gems, or I'm going to have the most red gems, along those lines. So that tiny little explanation just adds that little bit more complexity to the game, which I actually think is a good thing if you're looking at this as a gateway game to bring people into other games, because this most of one kind mentality is used in quite a few other games. The puzzles themselves are all very easily solvable. It's only the fact that you're doing it in a race against time against your friends that makes them difficult, really. It's a very, very simple game. It's got a quick setup, and the explanation time is minimal, which makes it a perfect gateway game, because there's nothing worse than walking into a room and seeing a huge table of things, and the person has to explain it to you for a long time. That's not, for me, a decent gateway. The next thing, along with complexity, which relates strongly to it, is accessibility. The brightly coloured 3D jewels that you'll have, the relatable Tetris jigsaw-style pieces. The game has a dice and tokens, and these are things that people can relate to. They've seen Monopoly, Cluedo 1,000 times. Yet the only real aspect that the player has to worry about managing are their player tiles. They're shape tiles that they'll be manoeuvring to complete their pieces. Some people are put off by sci-fi or fantasy. You mention an orc or a lightsaber and their eyes glaze over. Not here. Some people are intimidated by the size and scope of the game. You put Game of Thrones out on the table, here are your people, here are your tokens. You have the messenger raven, Again, gone. Not here. Now, of course, some people are drawn in by these things, and if you say to them that they are a mystical warrior, they're more invested in the game. You say to them that you are a puzzle solver. And that's it. Some people might not be as enthralled by that. I've yet to have somebody play this game and go, after 3 rounds, so we just do this 6 more times. People enjoy the accessibility of it because it is not a long game. It is not a massive investment. So most people are perfectly fine to play a puzzle, to do 9 puzzles. Now, it's like asking somebody to do 1 Sudoku. They're not going to mind that. If you ask them to do 6 Sudokus, and this game was 3 hours long, it would be a terrible gateway game. And finally, the tippity top of the pyramid, the most important thing I think in any game, not just gateway games, but particularly in gateway games, is the fun. This game is quick-paced, it's simple, there is some player interaction in taking other people's gems, and the idea of you finishing first or second within given rounds rather than just a big scoring aspect at the end of more solitaire style games. The timer element puts people on a level playing field. It is rewarding, as even if you don't win, you're still going to have completed your puzzles at the end of the game, and there is something inside us that enjoys solving a puzzle. It's not really a game that's going to result in many stand up, oh my god, or laugh out loud moments, but it's a solid, polite, gentle, and rewarding introduction to different games outside of the regular staple. So personally, I think Ubongo is a good gateway game. I'm not sure that I would play it regularly with just a veteran group of experienced gamers, but as a gateway game, I think it's extremely accessible and it's very open. So that's Ubongo. Hopefully there'll be a third video coming along soon that will link along to Ubongo. I'm not going to say what it is now, but hopefully you'll be interested to see about it. So that's Ubongo. I would definitely recommend it as a gateway game.